Welcome, everyone, to this very special Hiroshima survivor testimony. I'm Matt Malinowski, Director of Education at the Atomic Museum. Tonight's presentation is a partnership between the Atomic Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum in Hiroshima, Japan. This is the fourth collaboration between our two museums in an effort to bring continued awareness and relevance to stories of survival after the atomic bombings of World War II. We are honored to work alongside the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum on this compelling and important series. Previous presentations in this series are available to be streamed online at any time. Please note that during this webinar, only the presenters and panelists will be viewable and recorded. Audio and video from attendees will not be shared, but you can write questions in the chat feature in Zoom whenever you'd like. At the conclusion of the presentation, a question and answer session with the presenter will be moderated by panelists. Now, on behalf of the Atomic Museum and the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum, it's my privilege to introduce tonight's speaker, Ms. Kiyomi Kono. Kiyomi was a 14-year-old living on the outskirts of Hiroshima when the atomic bomb fell. She and her mother survived the initial blast, and on the following day, they headed into the city to search for her two elder sisters. Later in 2002, Kiyomi painted a series of scenes of what she witnessed after the bombing and published her own picture book. In 2003, she began sharing her story and her art with schools. Tonight, she's bringing her story to all of us. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Kiyomi Kono.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kiyomi Kono. I am 19 years old. Nice to meet you. 私は広島平和記念資料館で被爆証言をしているものですが、今日は皆様にお話を聞いていただくこと大変光栄に思っております。
I usually speak to Japanese students about my experience of the atomic bombing here in Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum. Today, I am very glad to have such an opportunity to speak to people in the USA.
今から78年前、この広島に人類史上最初の原子爆弾が投下されました。1945年8月6日、午前8時15分。さっき人類史上に原子爆弾が投下されました。8月9日には長崎にも原子爆弾が落とされました。8月15日、日本はアメリカをはじめとする連合国に降伏して長く苦しい戦争が終わりました。
Then let me talk about the story 78 years ago when the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. It was at 8:15 a.m. August 6, 1945, when the first atomic bomb ever in human history was dropped here on Hiroshima, followed by another on Nagasaki on August 9th. On August 15th, Japan surrendered to the Allied forces, including the US, and the long and painful war finally came to an end.
原子爆弾は広島市のほぼ中央にかかっています相生橋を目標に約1万メートル上空から投下され、地上600メートルで爆発しました。広島市は焼けてしまいました。
The bomb fell from the B-29 about 31,500 feet above the targeted Aioi Bridge, which spans the center of Hiroshima city, and exploded about 2,000 feet above the ground. A large part of the city was burned down.
これは広島市の被災した地図です。原子爆弾は爆発した瞬間に強烈な熱線や大量の放射線を四方に放射するとともに、周囲の空気が膨張して激しい爆風が起こりました。それらが複雑に作用して大きな被害になり、爆心地から半径2キロの地域が人も建物もほとんど焼き尽くされました。
This shows the damage to the city of Hiroshima. At the moment of explosion, The A bomb emitted intense heat and a large amount of radiation in all directions. The surrounding air then expanded, causing a violent blast. Within a radius of 2 kilometers or 1.2 miles, human beings and buildings were almost completely burned down. The people who lived around here were burned alive.
私は1931年に生まれました。その後、日本は今の中国と戦争を始め、私が小学校の5年生の時には、これ違いますね。アメリカの海軍基地がある真珠湾を攻撃して、今度はアメリカ、イギリスなど連合国とも戦争を始めました。
I was born in 1931, and after that, Japan started a war with China. When I became a fifth grader, Japan started the Pacific War with the Allied forces by attacking Pearl Harbor.
私が子供の頃はずっと戦争が続いておりました。だから国民の生活はとっても苦しいものでした。原爆が落とされた時、私は14歳で中学2年生でした。爆心地から30キロ離れた田舎に住んでいました。
In my childhood, war was always there, and the people's lives were hard. When the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, I was 14 years old. I lived in the countryside 20 miles away from the hypocenter.
これは当時の家族の写真です。左から両親、祖母、弟、丸枠は東南アジアに戦争に行っていた兄です。
Please see this picture. The girl labeled Kiyomi in pink letters is me and my family. From the left, my parents, my younger brother, and my grandma. The one in the circle is my elder brother. He was dispatched to the Southeast Asia as a soldier.
私の両側に立っている2人の姉が原爆が落ちたとき、広島市に住んでおりました。
Two of my elder sisters beside me were living in Hiroshima City when the bomb was dropped.
原爆が投下された翌日、私は母と一緒に姉を探して広島の街を歩き回りました。その時見た恐ろしい光景はいつまで経っても忘れることができません。
The next day, on August 7th, my mother and I went to Hiroshima City to search for my two sisters. It was hell there. The horrible scene I saw is really unforgettable for me to this day.
70歳になった時、原爆の絵の募集がありました。私は姉を探しに行った病院の花壇の上に材木のように積み重ねた少年たちの死体にショックを受けたことを思い出しました。
When I turned 70 years old, Hiroshima city government and the local broadcasting stations called for survivors to draw their memories. Then I remembered being shocked by the bodies of the boys, piled up like timber on the round flower bed of the hospital, where we went to look for my second eldest sister.
そのことを書き残そうと思いましたが、絵を描いたことがないのでなかなか大変でした。でも一生懸命このような絵を描きました。
So I made up my mind to draw the scene from memory, but it was very difficult because I had never drawn a picture in earnest. Anyway, I tried my best.
その絵がモニュメントになり、病院に置かれました。それがきっかけとなって、また私はあの日のことを私は忘れないと題して絵本にしました。今日はそれを使ってお話ししたいと思います。
Eventually, this painting became a monument and was placed at the hospital. This led to the publication of a picture book about that day with the title, I Will Never Forget That Day. Today, I'd like to talk using this picture book.
では、当時のことを振り返ってみたいと思います。戦争が厳しくなり、元気な男の人はみんな兵隊に取られました。工場や農村でも働く若い人の手が足りません。
First, I would like to look back on those days. The war situation was getting worse day by day, and all healthy men were being drafted. So there were few young people left to do the work in factories and on firms.
国は法律を作り、中学生から勉強をやめて、大人の仕事をするように命令しました。広島市でも3年生以上は兵器を作る工場に動員されました。中学1年生8200人は建物疎開の作業に動員されました。
Then the central government had introduced a new law and ordered middle school students to stop studying and help adults. In Hiroshima City, ninth graders aged 15 and up were mobilized to make weapons, while a total of 8,200 of 7th and 8th graders were mobilized to demolish buildings.
建物疎開というのは空襲に備えてたくさんの家を壊し広い空き地を作り防火地帯を作ることです。
Building demolition means the destruction of many houses to create a vacant lot and a fire break in preparation for air raids.
12歳から15歳の少年少女たちは夏休みもなく暑い外戸外で瓦を運んだり材木を片付けたりして一生懸命大人の手伝いをしました。そのして8200人の生徒たちのうち6300人が原子爆弾によって亡くなりました。
Without a summer vacation, boys and girls between the age of 12 and 15 worked outdoors in the summer heat. They carried roof tiles and timbers from the rubble. In the morning, more than 6,300 of the 8,200 were killed by the atomic bomb.
私の学校にはたくさんミシンが運ばれてきて、兵隊のシャツやズボンを縫うことになりました。ペンを持つことなく、一生懸命ミシンを踏みました。そして、勉強することなくて、毎朝竹槍、なぎなた、竹槍の稽古をしました。
In previous years, a lot of sewing machines were brought to my school, and our school became a factory for soldiers' uniforms. No studies, no pens. Instead, every morning we practiced in the schoolyard with a Japanese halberd and a bamboo spear.
先生がおっしゃいました。皆さん、敵が上陸してきたらこれで戦うのですから、しっかり訓練しましょう。私たちは毎日、人を作る練習をしました。竹槍で人を作る練習をしました。
My teacher said, everyone, soon the enemy will come ashore. Then we will fight with this, so let's practice hard. In the militaristic education, orders from the top were absolute. We practiced stabbing our enemies every day.
今考えるとナンセンスだと思います。拳銃に竹の棒を切れて少女が戦うことなんかできませんのに。でも軍国主の教育は上からの命令に絶対でした。教育の恐ろしさを思います。
Now I know it was completely nonsense and how powerful the militarism education was. A girl cannot fight bullets with a bamboo stick.
8月6日のお話をします。両親は朝早く飛行場を作るために遠くの山の中に行きました。家には3歳の甥が市内から一人疎開していたので、その子を世話するために私は学校を休んでいました。
In the early morning of August 6th, my parents went to work to build an airfield. I was absent from school because I had to take care of my 3-year-old nephew who had been evacuated from central Hiroshima city.
甥に朝ごはんを食べさせようと思ったとき、突然、ものすごい爆発音がドカーンとしました。30キロも離れているのに、すぐ家の横に爆弾が落ちたように、すごい音でした。
When I was about to give him breakfast, I suddenly heard a terrible explosion, like a clap of thunder that sounded like dogan. The sound actually came from 20 miles away, but it sounded like it was very close by.
慌てて外に出てみましたが、家の周りには何事も起きていません。不思議だなと思っていると、山の向こうから大きな雲が音もなく湧き上がっているのが見えました。両親はいないし、 ものすごく不安だった思いがあります。
I went out of the house barefooted, but it seemed nothing happened around my house. While wandering and standing in the garden, I saw a big cloud rising over the mountain silently. I didn't understand what had happened over there.
私の家の前には鉄道があって汽車が走っていましたが、その日は朝から汽車が動きません。夕方近く動き始めた汽車が広島からたくさんの怪我人を運んできました。その人たちから広島に大きな爆弾が落ちて広島が全滅したという話が伝わり、大騒ぎになりました。
There was a railroad running in front of my house, but that day no train came from the city. In the evening, a train arrived at the village station carrying many injured people from Hiroshima. They told us that a large bomb dropped on the city, and that single bomb had totally wiped out the big city of Hiroshima.
翌日、一番の汽車で私たちは広島に向かいました。広島の駅が爆撃で壊れているので、途中の野外駅で降りました。
Next day, my mother and I got on the first train and headed for Hiroshima City in search of my sisters. Since Hiroshima Station was destroyed, we were told to get off at Yaga Station.
プラットフォームに降りた途端、ものすごい拍手がしていました。動物やいたような焦げた匂いで、目や鼻を刺して息が詰まりそうでした。
As soon as we got off the train, we were struck by an awful stench. It stung our eyes and noses, and we felt suffocated.
ようやく慣れて目を開けてまたびっくりしました。昨日まであった広島の街がきれいに消えてなくなっているんです。焼け野原になっています。
When I finally opened my eyes, I was shocked. The city of Hiroshima that had existed there until yesterday had completely disappeared.
焼け野原の向こうにいつも見ることがない二の島が鮮やかな緑色をしていたことが強く印象に残っています。
Only huge burned fields were there. What impressed me was the bright green color of Ninoshima Island beyond the burned field, which we usually couldn't see.
この写真があの日私が見た被爆直後の広島です。原爆は街を破壊してしまいます。増税の命を奪ってしまいました。
This photo shows Hiroshima as I saw it that day just after the bombing. An atomic bomb destroys a city in this way and takes many lives.
私たちは畑の中の道を広島に向かいましたが、私たちの反対側には大怪我をした人たちが市外に逃げようとする長い長い行列が続いておりました。
We walked into the city along a road in a rice field. On the other side of the road, however, there was a long line of people fleeing the city, people with severe injuries.
その人たちは髪がチリチリになって顔を大きく腫れ血を流しています。服が焦げて半分血入れて半分になっている裸のようでした。
Their hair was frizzled, their faces severely swollen and bleeding. Their clothes were burned off, and they looked half naked.
やけどした皮膚が剥がれて、つま先にボロ切れのようにぶら下がったまま、両手を前に突き出して、そろりそろりと歩いていました。
Their skin peeled away from the burns on their shoulders and arms, hanging down from their fingertips like old rags. They walked slowly and slowly, holding their arms up in front.
初めてそのような人を見たので、私と同じ人間とは思われず、化け物のように怖くて気持ちが悪いので、見ないようにして歩きました。
I couldn't believe that they were people like me, and I felt bad and scared, like I was watching ghosts. So I tried not to see them and walked away.
2時間も3時間も長く歩いて、ようやく市内に入りました。市内にはたくさん死体が転がっていて、歩くのが大変でした。あの日爆心地の地面の温度は3000度か4000度だったと言います。 激しい爆風に飛ばされ、強い熱を浴びた人間の体は2倍にも3倍に膨らんで、男か女かもわかりません。
We worked for 2 or 3 hours, and finally we entered the central city. In the city, the roads were so full of corpses that there was no place to step. The temperature of the ground surface at the hypocenter just after the explosion was said to be 5,500 to 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The bodies, which were blown by a violent blast and exposed to strong heat rays, had swollen to double or triple their size, and it was impossible to tell if they were men or women.
青めけに転がった死体から目玉が流れ出てゼリーのようです。お腹が破れて流れ出た内臓は卵焼きのようでした。私は下を見ないと下を含むので、見れば怖いし、泣きながら母にすがって死体につまずいたりまたいだりして歩きました。
Their eyeballs were flowing down like jelly. Their organs were hanging out of their ripped bellies and were the color of a fried egg. I didn't want to look down, but if I didn't, I would step on a dead body. But when I did look, it was terribly scary. I kept walking, crying, and holding on to my mother.
瓦礫に道を長く歩いていると、遠くに赤十字病院が見えてきました。病院もまた大変なことになっておりました。怪我をした人たちがいっぱい寝かされていて、痛いよ、苦しいよ、誰か助けて、お母さん、水が飲みたいよと泣きやめきながらのたうち回っていました。
After a long walk along the road through the rubble, we finally reached the Hiroshima Red Cross Hospital, where my second eldest sister worked as a nurse. The hospital was also like hell. People covered in blood were writhing on the concrete floor and crying out, "It hurts. Help me. Mom, give me water."
母が姉の名前を言いますと、助けられてニロシマに運ばれたと言われました。大丈夫ですと言われました。私たちは姉が生きとるのでほっと安心して、今度は混雑する病院から外に出ました。上の姉を探さなくてはいけません。
However, a nurse told us that my second eldest sister had been rescued and taken to the hospital on Ninoshima Island, and she was fine. We were relieved to hear this. The inside of the hospital was chaos, and we went outside. Now we had to search for my other sister.
外に出たとき、ハッとしました。玄関に大きな丸い花壇があったんですが、そこにたくさんの、これ病院の中です。忘れました。これ病院の中ですね。少年たちが材木のように山積みされていました。
Then I was frightened. The dead bodies of students my age had been piled up in the round flower beds.
私はショックを受けました。きっと建物を壊す作業をしていて放射線にやられたんでしょうか。わずか12、13歳の少年たちです。翌日彼らは誰一人肉死に見取られることなく焼かれてしまいました。
I was shocked. Maybe they were exposed to radiation while demolishing buildings. They were only 12 or 13 years old. The next day, their bodies were cremated, or I should say, just burned, without any of them being attended to by their families.
上の姉を探しに来たにまた橋を渡りました。橋の上から川を見ると満潮の川にはおびただしい死体が浮かんでいました。
Then we were back across the bridge to look for my other sister. From the bridge, a tremendous number of bodies were floating in the river at high tide.
6日に激しい炎に追われて川に入って死んだ人たちは引き潮で海に流されました。死体は満潮でまた海から川へ帰ってくるんです。次の日もまた海に流され、また死体は川に帰ってきました。
Many people who were caught by the flames and jumped into the river died in vain that day. Their bodies were washed away by the ebb tide, then pushed back from the sea by the high tide. They were washed away and pushed back day after day.
姉の家も爆風で壊れていましたが、火事になっていませんでした。写真を見てください。燃えているのが8月6日の市内です。川が豪華地帯になりました。姉の家も壊れていましたが、姉たちは生きていました。母が泣いて喜びました。
My sister's house was destroyed by the blast, but not burned. Please have a look at the photo. This was taken on August 6th. The central city over the river had burned like this, but the river worked as a fire break. My sister's house was destroyed, but they were alive. My mother rejoiced and
今
cried.
度は電車の軌道に沿って帰ることになりました。帰り道、街にはたくさんの死体が転がっていました。爆心地近くになると、焼け焦げた電車がたくさん軌道を外れて突っ込んでいました。
On the way back, there were a lot of bodies lying around the city. In the area close to the hypocenter, many charred streetcars had derailed.
窓から見ると何か黒いものがぶら下がっています。よくよく見るとそれは人間の腕が体からちぎれて、つり革を持ったまま黒い炭になっているんです。黒い炭の棒になって下がっているのでぎょっとしました。
I happened to look up and saw black things hanging down in the car. When I looked closer, I noticed that they were charred arms, torn from the bodies, still holding onto straps. I was so terrified.
あら、進まなくない。福屋で、あの日、たくさんの電車がこの焦げましたね。次、福山まで帰りました。福屋デパートまで帰りました。8階建てのビルは外壁だけ残って、中は真っ黒に焼けていました。
When we reached the Fukuya department store, the inside of the 8-story building was burned black, with only the external walls remaining.
建物の周りの道路には、怪我をした人や怪我した死体がずらっと並べてありました。
On the road around the building, a lot of bodies were lying on the ground.
建物の一方に、兵隊さんがずらっと並んでおりました。うずくまっていました。その人たちはぐったりして、もう今にも息が切れそうでした。死んだ人もいました。
In another place around the building, many soldiers slumped and crouched down, almost out of breath. Some were already breathless.
私はいつも不思議でした。あの人たちは怪我をしてない、血を流してないのに、どうして亡くなられたんだろうかと、長いこと思いました。でも、みんな息切れて死にそうな人ばっかりです。今頃になってあれば放射線のせいだったんだろうと分かりました。
Up to the moment, I had seen many people covered in blood and badly burned, but those soldiers were uninjured and their clothes were not torn. However, their faces were ashen and dying. I was always wondered about that. Later, we learned that it was due to radiation.
放射線には色も形も匂いもありませんが、それを一旦体に浴びると、体の奥深く浸透して、動血機能や細胞や遺伝子を壊してし、人間は生きることができないの。原子爆弾の恐ろしいのは、放射線をたくさん出すことです。
Radiation was no color, no shape, no odor. But once we were exposed to it, it penetrates deep into the body, destroying genes, chromosomes, and blood functions. Therefore, humans cannot survive it. This is the dread of the atomic bomb.
あまりにも残酷な人ばっかりたくさん見たので、福屋から以後のことの記憶がありません。 でも家に帰ってからのことは覚えています。
I had seen so many cruel deaths and injuries all day that my heart became paralyzed, and I lost my memory of what happened after the Fukuya department store. But I still remember what happened after we came home to the countryside.
家に帰ってからは当分は夜の暗闇が怖くてたまりませんでした。電灯が一つですから別の部屋に行くと死体がたくさん転がっているように錯覚して暗闇に怯えました。
For a while, I was scared of the dark, since there was only one lamp at night. When I went into another rooms, I imagined that there were many corpses lying there.
3日後に見つけ出された隣の仲良しの文子ちゃんが死にました。全身にガラスが刺さり、血まみれで帰ってきました。
Fumiko, my best friend in my neighborhood, who was found 3 days after the A bomb, died. All over her body was pierced by pieces of broken glass and covered with blood.
医者も帰ってきても、医者も薬もありません。水もありません。熱が高いのに、氷もありません。でもみんなそれぞれ皆さんにお別れの言葉を残して亡くなりました。
Although she was able to come home, there was no doctor, no medicine, no water, no ice. Even with a high fever, she managed to say goodbye to everyone and passed away.
上の澄子が赤ん坊を連れて帰ってきました。赤ちゃんは栄養が足りずミルクもないので弱っていました。
Sumiko, my eldest sister, came home with her baby daughter. The baby was weak from lack of milk.
横に寝かせると呼吸を苦しがるので、昼も夜も姉が抱いていましたが、姉の膝の上で死にました。
Because she couldn't breathe well when she was lying on the mattress. My sister always held her in her arms, but sadly, she died in her mother's arms.
その頃から姉の髪の毛が抜けたり、歯茎から血が出たりするようになりました。私も体中湿疹ができて長く苦しみました。
Shortly after, my sister's hair began falling out and her gums bleeding. I had a rash all over my body and it was annoying for a long time.
家の近くには被爆した人がたくさん親戚や知人を頼って身を寄せていましたので、毎日誰かが死にました。毎日人を焼く煙が絶えませんでした。
At that time, in my neighborhood, many people who had suffered from the A bomb came back and started to live by relying on their relatives and acquaintances. Someone died every day, and I saw the smoke from the cremations every day.
8月6日から12月までに14万人の人たちが亡くなりました。
With a single atomic bomb, about 140,000 people had died between August 6th and the end of December 1945.
あれから78年経ちました。私は生徒たちに戦争で亡くなった友達のことを話しています。
78 years have passed since then. Now I have been talking to students who visit a Peace Memorial Park about my friends who were killed by the war.
あの頃はお腹いっぱいご飯を食べられませんでした。お菓子も果物はありません。テレビも何もありません。
In those days, there was no enough food. We were always hungry. No cakes or fruits are available. Of course, no TVs.
何にも楽しいことがないのに、お国のためだと一生懸命働いて、わずか10代で死んだ友達のこといたことを皆さんに伝えたいのです。
I want to tell you that many students died in their early teens while working hard for the country without feeling any joy.
母さん、お腹いっぱいご飯が食べたい。
Mom, I want to eat a lot.
学校行って勉強体操をしてみたい。
I want to study. I want to play sports.
本がいっぱい読みたい。
I want to read a book.
友達と思いっきり遊びたい。
I want to play hard with my friends.
母さん会いたいよ。
I want to see my mom.
彼らの声が聞こえるような気がします。
I can still hear their voices.
この写真はあの日、建物を壊す作業をしていて、1学年321人が全員原子爆弾で亡くなった広島第二中学の生徒たちの家です。
This is a portrait of the students of Hiroshima Second Junior High School who died during the building demolition that day.
写真は何にも言いませんが、伝えています。
All 321 boys in the 7th grade died at once. The portrait says nothing, but it appeals to us.
僕たちにはたくさん夢がありました。たくさん希望がありました。それでも何一つ叶えることがなく、わずか12、13歳で一種の光線で死んでしまいました。
We had a lot of dreams. We had a lot of hope, but without fulfilling any of them, we were killed by radiation at the age of 12 or 13.
戦争さえなかったら、原爆にさえはなかったら、僕たちのきっと素晴らしい人生があったはずです。
If it were not for the war, if it were not for the atomic bomb, we would have had long and wonderful lives.
お話は変わります。2011年東日本に大震災が起こりました。
Now let me change the subject. In 2011, a terrible earthquake struck eastern Japan.
福島の原子力発電所も爆発しました。あれからの日本列島は地震や津波や土石流や火山の爆発、大洪水、度重なる自然災害でいつも苦しんでいます。
The Fukushima nuclear power plant exploded. Even after that, Japan has suffered repeated natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, landslides, and floods.
でも自然災害は人間の力ではどうすることもできません。でも核兵器はこの手で作りました。人間の手で作りました。この手で使います。だったらこの手でおしまいに人間の手で廃絶できるはずだと思います。
These natural disasters cannot be handled by human power. However, nuclear weapons have been made by humans and used by humans. Therefore, it should be possible to eliminate them by human hands.
世界中の人たちの英知を集めて、この問題をよく話し合って、連帯して解決してほしいと強く願っています。
I strongly hope that people all over the world will gather their wisdom, discuss seriously, and work together to solve this problem.
約13年前、アメリカに行く会がありました。最初、ミズリー州立大学へ行きました。トルーマン。
About 13 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to the United States, and I visited the University of Central Missouri.
トルーマン大統領の出身地で、原爆投下を是とした大統領ですから、広島から私たち年寄りが行って話が聞いてもらえるかと不安でした。
At first, I was worried if people would listen to me, people from Hiroshima, in the hometown of President Truman, who endorsed the atomic bombing.
でも若い人たちは熱心に聞いてくれ、広島のことを知りませんでした。許してください。家に帰り、周りの人に話します。これから核のことも勉強しますと、率直に意見を言ってくれました。
But the young people listened eagerly. Some gave me their honest opinions, such as, I didn't know about Hiroshima, please forgive me. I will tell my friends about this. I want to study nuclear weapons.
私には言葉には人の心を動かす強い力があると思いました。言葉の力を信じて原爆の恐ろしさ、次の世代にしっかり伝えなければいけないと強く思っています。
I believe words have the power to move people's hearts. So we must believe in the power of words and pass on the horror of the atomic bomb to the next generation.
75年間草木も生えないと言われていた広島が見事に復興しました。大勢の人々が住んでいた中島地区も平和公園としてよみがえり、核兵器廃絶と平和の祈りを発信し続けています。
Hiroshima, which was said to have no plans for 75 years due to radiation, has been beautifully reconstructed through the efforts of the people and assistance from home and abroad. That Nakajima district, where many people lived, has also been revived as a peace memorial park. Now, from here, we are sending our wishes for nuclear abolition and peace to the world.
広島や長崎の先人たちが長い間地道に伝えてきたことが、ようやく国際的な広がりを見せ、2021年1月に国連で核禁止条約が発効されました。
The constant appeals of the Hiroshima, Nagasaki A-bomb survivors over the years have spread internationally, and the UN, United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons has come into force in January 2021.
明るい希望が見えた矢先、ロシアのプーチン大統領が核の使用をちらつかせながら、ウクライナで戦争を始めました。私たちは大変ショックを受けました。今まで長い間、広島や長崎の人たちが一生懸命伝えたことは何だったんだろうか。無駄だったのかと悲しくなり、絶望しました。
Just when we had bright hopes, Russian President Putin invaded Ukraine and threatened to use nuclear weapons. I was very shocked. I wondered if all the messages from the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki over the years had been in vain. I despaired.
しかし、絶望からは何も生まれません。どんなことがあっても唯一被爆国の日本は世界の人々たちに核兵器の恐ろしさと戦争の愚かさをしっかりと伝える義務があると思います。皆さんにお願いします。皆さんの時代には核兵器を使わないで話し合いにより平和が外交により平和が保たれるように力を尽くしていただきたいと思います。
But nothing comes out of despair. No matter what happens, Japan, as the only country to have experienced atomic bombings due to war, has an obligation to convey to the world the horror of nuclear weapons and the stupidity of war. So I ask you, in your time, please make every effort to maintain peace through diplomacy and discussion without use of nuclear weapons.
原子爆弾は一発で都市を破壊し、大勢の人、命を奪います。そして今の核兵器は広島や長崎に使ったものよりもすごく力が強いと言います。そんなものを使って戦争したら勝った国も負けた国もないと思います。
The atomic bomb will perish the humans in instant. Today's nuclear weapons are said to be hundreds of times more powerful than those used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
遠い国で起こったことだと思って、自分たち一人一人の問題として平和の灯火を灯し続けていただきたいと思います。
Please do not think that it happened in a distant country and keep the flame of peace burning in your hearts.
どうか皆さん世界中の人が連帯してこの平和な世界を築いていただきたいと心からお願いします。
So I sincerely hope that you, younger people, will unite with others across the globe to build a peaceful world.
長いことお話聞いてくださってありがとうございました。ノーモア広島、ノーモア長崎、ノーモアウオ、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much for your kind listening.
Kiyomi, we are honored that you brought your powerful story and your art and your message of peace to our audience tonight. And we sincerely appreciate you taking the time to share it with us all. So thank you so much. During the presentation, we had a few questions posted in the chat feature, and I'd like to pose some of those to you now before we conclude tonight's presentation. And so first, Kiyomi, why did you choose art to express your story? Was that a natural choice for you? How did that come to be? Kiyomi, can you hear me?
Your question is why Ms. Kono decide to talk her story. Is this correct?
To share her story using art as well. Yes.
Okay. 質問
きっかけは、私たちが、まあ、どうですかね、もっと若い時は、周りにたくさん敬老の人や、それから被爆者の人がいっぱいいらっしゃいました。ですから、子育てがあったり、仕事があったりするので、そういう余裕もなかったんですけれども、だんだん周りのお友達が亡くなっていかれて、そして友達もケロイドで赤ちゃんを産めなかったり、それからガラスが刺さったし、たくさん苦しんで知ったし、親戚の者も死んでるし、やっぱり皆さんが亡くなっていかれるのを見たら、何かしなきゃいけないっていう、あの時この目で見たこと、14歳で見たことを、やっぱり次の時代に伝えなければいけないと強く思うようになったから、そして絵の募集があったりしたから、きっかけとなったんですね。絵の募集して少年の絵を描いたことがきっかけとなって絵本を描きました。
Okay, when I was young, just after the war, I saw many survivors who had severely injured, who had keloid on their body, and it was a very devastating situation continued. However, I got married and I have children, and I was busy with the child rearing or for my work. However, for a long time, I had seen my friends and many friends died one by one. Some of them had a side effect, after effect, like many pieces of glasses are still inside the body, or that the person who cannot have a baby, there are such many survivors around us. Watching these people, I thought I have to do something which I can do. I have to send my message, send my experience, talk my experience, which I experienced at the age of 14 to the next generation. I strongly thought so. And at the same time, when I was 75, there was a call from the Hiroshima city and news company, broadcasting company, to draw a picture about the experience. And I drew the picture of the boys on the flower bed. So that was the starting point of my talk. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The next question we have is that, Kiyomi, can you expand on how the community's collective emotion, like how long that took to rebuild and how the community supported each other after the bombing?
Yeah. やっぱり戦後10年ぐらいは空白の時間って言って敗戦と 制度がいろいろ変わるから、被爆者のことをほったらかしみたいで、工事の人たちも面倒を見る人いなかったしたですけど、10年ぐらいだったの、なんですかね、ビキニの、
はい。第五福竜丸。
スクリュー事件の時頃からいろいろ法律ができたんですよ。強くどう言っていいかわからないけど、そういうのができたりして、みんな助け合って、行政が全然もうそれまでは手が入らなかったのに、行政も寄り添ってもらったりして、いろんな被爆者の人たちを助ける個人ができたり、いろいろ医療原爆病院ができたりして、制度も良くなりました。だんだんね、10年ぐらい経って、それです。それまでみんな自分のこと必死で生きたんですから、食べるものはないし、着るものはないし、の中で、みんな一生懸命頑張ったと思いますよ、頃、皆さん助け合ってね。でも、その中でもやっぱり行政の力もあるし、それからアメリカでも随分私は岩に住んでいますけど、フロイド・シュモーさん博士がシアトルから来られて家を建ってくださったり、それからノーマン・カズンズ氏やなんかの精神養子の援助もあったり、いろいろ援助やら努力やら、市民の努力やら援助がうまく絡み合って、今の広島になったんだと思います。市民の人も努力しました。
Yes, I remember after the war, for about 10 years is called the vacant 10 years. It means just after the war, all Japan was in chaos, and the system, the government system was there is no the custom or the support from the government at all. So the A-bomb survivors were ignored by the government. And for example, there were a lot of orphans from the A-bomb, but they were ignored. But 7 years, for 7 years, Japan was occupied. But after that, Japan has become independent. And around 10 years later, there was a accident. The so-called number 5 Lucky Dragon fisherman boat was exposed to the radioactive fallout by the America's the hydrogen bomb testing. And after that incident occurred, Japan had a anti-nuclear movement and a new law established because of the by the new government. And the Japanese local government, Japanese central government started to support the war survivors or the A-bomb survivors. And gradually we had a medical care and hospitals, and we can get a better system, better rules and laws. But for the 10 years after the war, we are very occupied for ourselves, to do ourselves, because there were no enough food, no enough clothes. So without any help from the government, we must help each other in the society or in a community. And gradually, government has become able to support us, I remember. And one American doctor, Dr. Floyd Shumore, who came to support to help is Hiroshima survivors from Seattle, and he built a lot of houses for survivors, for example. And another American journalist, Mr. Norman Cousins, helped many survived children. They brought many girls to United States to have a plastic surgery, for example. Like this, many helps from home, from abroad, plus Hiroshima citizens' effort create the enable Hiroshima's reconstruction, and now we have such a peaceful and a beautiful city today, I believe. Thank you.
We had another question for Ms. Kono. Some of our participants are curious if she herself suffered any physical injury or radiation exposure during the time after the bomb.
出来物がたくさん出て1年ぐらいね、体中へ。髪を切って、坊主にして、頭にして、包帯巻いて、汽車で学校へ通うのに、ね、皆さんに嫌われるし、恥ずかしかったけど、その頃はGHQ のプレスコードが敷かれていて、原爆のことは全然放射線のことなんか知りませんでしたし、どのせい、お医者行ってもどうして原因がわからないし、栄養が悪いんだろうかぐらいで済みましたけど、今になって考えたら皆さんの話を聞いたりして、放射線、残留放射能のとこ歩いたからかなと思ったりはしますが、はっきりしたことはわかりませんけどね。それとお産の後、子供産んだ後2年ぐらい、何にも仕事ができませんでした。それで今頃原爆の死体を片付けた人たちが帰って郷里帰られてブラブラ病っていうのがあったって聞いてみて、ああ私もそうかなと思って思うぐらいではっきりした、あれはありませんが。
はい。As for me, I had many rashes or the eruptions from all over my body, especially my head had a lot of eruptions. So I had a haircut, very short, and I had a bandage around my head. And by doing so, I went to my school. However, in the train, many people watched me, and I was very embarrassed by this. I remember, but at that time, after the war, the GHQ had a press code or the censorship about the word atomic bombing or the radiation. So we had no idea about radiation. We are not taught about the facts. So I didn't know about the cause of the rashes or my body condition. And I visited doctors. He wondered the reason why my body condition. But today, or after that, after many years, by listening to the many people's story or the explanation, now I doubt the cause of my body condition. That condition was maybe because of the residual radiation, because I visited the city just next day of the atomic bombing. And I had a baby. I have a baby, and after for 2 years after the birth, I couldn't do anything because of the fatigue. And at that time, many people who entered the city after the bombing and exposed to radiation, and after that they became the same situation. It means they couldn't do anything. They just because of the fatigue, they couldn't do anything. The kind of symptom appeared to many people. So maybe I was also suffered from that kind of symptom situation, I believe. Thank you very much.
We had a younger participant, Rowan, ask if there was ever a time that you felt like you could have a normal childhood and play with your friends in the aftermath.
それは今の若い人たち見たらね、私たちができなかったことをいっぱいしてるから、いいなと思いますけれども、もう一回そんな生活したい。やはり、統率が取れたっていうんですかね、やっぱり全体主義だったからね。はい、できちっと秩序があったような気がします、今よりはね。はい、だから今の長い時代を長い年代を考えたら、貧しくても昔の方が良かった、愛情があふれて人殺しも何にもなかった時代が懐かしいような気がします。年取ったからでしょうかね。でも、結構それなりに人間は楽しみ見つけるし、貧しくても、はい、もう一回したいとは思いません。はい、一生懸命その時生きたんだからいいと思います。一生懸命。
はい。If your question is asking me, will you, do you want to go back to the childhood and have a so-called normal or the happy lives again? And my answer is no, I don't think so. Of course, if now I see the children happily is living happily in the peaceful time, and now I'm happy to see them. However, in my childhood, even though there was militarism, but on the other hand, there was a kind of rule, and we are well organized in well manner. So I didn't hate that kind of situation because the society or the community was well organized. Although we didn't have enough food, enough materials. However, I was able to enjoy my life, our life. So my answer is I don't want to repeat my childhood to enjoy the world, materialistic world like today's children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kiyomi. We have one final question for you, and it's why do you feel it's important to continue to share this story and just to follow up, is there a way that viewers can actually get physical copies of the book that you shared with us today? Is there a way that's distributed as well?
証言するこ
はい、証言を続けていく。
やはり実際にその原子爆弾の恐ろしさをこの目で見たんですから、戦争の愚かさ、どうしてもずっと伝え続けていかなきゃいけない。見たものとして、早く死んだ人たちも生きたまま焼かれて死んだ人たちは何もわからないで死んだんだけど、私たちはそれを見たもんですから、やっぱり生き残った者がそのことをずっと伝えていって、これから先も核兵器を使った戦争が起こらないように、そのためにはみんな一人ずつ黙っていたらいけないから伝えなきゃいけないと思いますし、それから私は計画したわけで何でもないのに、アメリカの方行っていろいろ2回も行かしてもらって長いことお話しさせてもらったりしたときに思ったことは、中学生たちが親にも会わずに何の意味もわからずに原爆で亡くなった中学生たちの魂が私をこんなところへ連れてきてくれたんだねっていつも思いましたから、やっぱり生きとる間は見たものが核兵器の怖さは伝えなければいけないと義務のようなものを思います。
はい。Yes, because when I was 14, I witnessed the horror of nuclear weapons and the stupidity of the war. So I strongly believe this is the mission for us, the survivors, who witness the people's suffering. There were many people who burned alive. So this is, I believe this is the obligation for the survived people to talk and to hand down the experience to the next generation. And yes, the nuclear war, nuclear weapons are absolutely bad. So I think we shouldn't keep silent. And regarding of for me, I had a chance to visit the United States to talk about my experience by the Hiroshima city government. And I talked about the middle school student who killed by the radiation instantly by the bomb. And at that time, I thought that that boy's souls, that boys brought me to the United States to talk about my experience. So I believe this is my mission to talk about the horror of the nuclear weapons to abolish these things. And this is my obligation, I believe. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the Atomic Museum, I would like to again thank Ms. Kiyomi Kono for joining us tonight, and also extend our gratitude to our colleagues at the Hiroshima Peace Memorial for their continued collaboration and support. Thank you for everyone for attending and for your thoughtful questions tonight. You can keep up to date with other upcoming events and activities that we have at the Atomic Museum on our website, atomicmuseum.vegas, or by following our various social media channels, such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We hope to see you all at another upcoming Atomic Museum event. And again, thank you very much to Ms. Kono, and good night to everyone. Thank you.